The second question is also about God's attributes. And the questioner asks, aren't his omni-attributes contradictory? Isn't God infinitely tolerant, infinitely forgiving? Well, then how can he be infinitely just and infinitely forgiving at the same time?
Well, interesting enough, Kevin, this again connects with the Islamic conception of God in contrast to the Christian concept of God. One of the criticisms that I've offered of the Muslim concept of God in my debate with Shabir Ali on what must we do to be saved is that in Islam, God's being all holy and all just is in fundamental contradiction to God's being all compassionate and all merciful. These cannot both be fulfilled. And so if God does forgive sin, as the Muslim claims, because he's all compassionate, his justice must be compromised. Sin is not punished. Sin is not given its just desert. God simply blinks at sin and chooses to forgive and to be compassionate and merciful, and his justice goes unfulfilled. So God is all compassionate in Islam only at the expense of no longer being all just. Now, contrast that with Christianity, where you have the notion of the substitutionary atonement of Christ. The justice and the love of God meet at the cross. At the cross, we see the justice of God completely fulfilled as God's wrath is poured out upon Christ as our sin bearer and substitute. He bears the penalty for our sin so that God's justice and the demands of his holiness are completely fulfilled. But at the same time, we see God's love at the cross in that God himself, in the person of Christ, takes upon the penalty that his own holiness and justice had demanded. Rather than exact it from us, Christ offers to bear that in our place. He gives himself as a voluntary sacrifice out of love for us. And so at the cross, we see both the love and the justice of God completely fulfilled. And therefore, it is the cross that allows God to consistently be all just, all holy, and yet all loving and all forgiving at the same time. These two attributes of God are reconciled at the cross.